Hi, this is Charlie Mato-Toyela with Blue Bear Flutes and bluebearflutes.com. Today I just wanted to share with you the world's smallest Native American flute, or presumably the world's smallest Native American flute. I've never seen one smaller, and this one of course plays. Now of course you've seen those ones that are made into necklaces that are about yay big, and I'd always wondered, do those play? And of course I tried all of them and they don't. So I thought, hey, I would make one of these. Now, the thing that inspired me to make this is all of the original Cherokee stories about the little people. And being of Cherokee heritage and knowing these stories and hearing these stories, not only from Cherokee, but from Choctaws and Creeks and Chickasaws, and then people outside of the Americas. I have Dutch friends that have told me stories. I've read stories of Norwegian little people and read stories about little people in Germany and in Africa and everywhere. Just so many wonderful stories. Those are a big part of my life. So I was definitely inspired by those kind of things to make this smallest Native American flute. Now, this little guy here plays the minor pentatonic scale, though it may not be beautifully perfect. It is so high-pitched it's nearly impossible to tune. But the little flute here is only about 4 inches from tip to stern, and then of course the size of the block sitting on top of it, it's not much more than 1/4 of an inch. So between it and the flute, it's barely 1/2 of an inch. It has a separate mouthpiece here that's been glued on because I wanted to extend it a little bit, and it's so tiny. My gosh, I don't know if you can get a good zoom in on that thing. So tiny in diameter. On the inside there, probably around 3/16, maybe a little smaller than 3/16 of an inch. But the bear totem itself that I have on top of it here has some little ears, and it kind of resembles in a lot of ways our typical bear totems. But a beautiful, beautiful little flute. I'm so happy to have finally broke down and made this. This was one of my goals in life, was to make a very tiny little playable Native American flute. Now, the inside mechanism here is just like typical North American Indian Native American flutes. It has an air supply hole, a partition in the middle, has a sound hole over here, and built into the bear totem itself, which is just tied on with this skinny little piece of leather I had to cut out with a pair of scissors because my leather cutter can't cut things that thin. Anyway, the track is actually in the bottom of the block. It made it a little bit easier. Now, I don't know if you can see the size of those fingerings there. Being able to get your fingers that close together is kind of a trick in itself, but the diameter of the holes are so tiny that I actually had to use a hot needle to poke them out. So I actually poked them out with a needle, and not too far different with the sound hole. I actually had to make a very tiny, tiny little tool. I had to build it in order to make that sound hole play as it needed to play. And the first time that I recorded a video with this was on Instagram, and we'd never posted a video before recently about this little flute or playing it on another video or anything until recently. But when I did it on Instagram, it was the right time of the year, and I was behind my shop, which our whole place is in the woods here, which is great. But I was behind my shop, and as I was playing it along, there were quails not 10 feet from me answering me. So the quails loved it. And personally, I think it's probably my own personal idea, but I do know some Choctaw friends that talk the same way, that the quail and the little people have some kind of relationship. So they it fit anyway, I should say. But it's a neat little tiny instrument. You can play a number of notes on it, which is cool because it's a typical 4-hole flute, which I've got other 4-hole flute videos, and I show how you can play them in minor and major and what have you. But because this thing's so tiny, you can easily partially cover the bottom with your finger. Let's see if I can even do this. Such a tiny little guy. So just like my other 4-hole flutes, you blow all holes covered as the lowest note, then you uncover them one at a time, and as you uncover all the holes to make the next higher note, you cover them back up and blow fast. So such a neat little guy. and so many different things you can do with such a tiny, tiny little flute. It actually kind of resembles the bird whistle that's at the Cahokia Indian Mounds where we frequent. And the bird whistle there is about the same size, made out of about the same size material. This is a piece of river cane. It has a western cedar mouthpiece and a western cedar little bear totem on top of it. It's got a leather cord tying it together. Such a tiny, tiny little guy. Like I say, is definitely something that I'm very proud of and adore very much. So anyway, I just wanted to share with you. I hope you guys are doing well. If this is the first time you've seen one of our videos, I have to mention we have a lot of videos on making and playing the Native American flute, and we keep adding more for some reason. But anyway, just kidding. I know the reason. Hopefully you know the reason too, because hopefully you've seen a lot of our other videos. But if you haven't, please check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and like and do all that kind of crazy stuff that keeps us able to make more videos. So anyway, this is Charlie Mato-Toyela signing out for Blue Bear Flutes and BlueBearFlutes.com. We hope to see you again here really soon. Take care.